Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Shipley, I will just say one thing to your comments, and he's not in the chamber, but that is a true distortion of facts in reference to what I said. I absolutely did not say that we should do the bidding of the CDC. I merely pointed out the reality that the position our healthcare facilities would be in if they could not follow CDC guidance, and what those facilities, the position of those facilities might be in as they're struggling to try to keep their residents safe, while at the same time honoring the rights of those who want to visit their loved ones. You know, everybody was very upset, and rightfully so. It was horrific when you couldn't visit loved ones in nursing homes, when you couldn't visit folks who were sick and dying because of COVID and because of the desire to try to protect. It was a difficult, horrible situation. Many would argue some of those decisions were wrong, and I would agree with that. Having said that, now we have guidance from the CDC with the vaccines in which if you have a vaccine, you can visit your loved ones without a mask and move around. If you don't have a vaccine, you can have a mask, but you can still visit. That's tremendous progress, and I don't know how they're able to issue those guidelines without information. And it is true when, no right is absolute. You can't go into someone's business with your gun if that business owner says, you don't get to have a gun in my business, because it's a conflict of two rights. And so we sort of come down on the right of the business owner in that regard. So no right is absolute, and no one is suggesting that anyone could or should be denied health care if they don't get a vaccination. There is a duty of care. Currently in law, this bill doesn't change anything when it comes to health care facilities that is not currently the situation. It doesn't address it. It exempts from the requirements of the bill. That doesn't mean that vaccine passports are encouraged in healthcare facilities. It doesn't change anything. The duty to care, the right to privacy, all of these other issues, all of these other requirements still exist in code. So no one is suggesting by exempting healthcare facilities that we think someone should be discriminated against and not allowed to see their loved ones or not admitted into a hospital. Those things won't happen because there is a duty of care. No one is suggesting that those things are right or moral, but the exemption is because of the realities faced by healthcare facilities in trying to protect those they are sworn to protect and take care of in a very difficult situation in long-term care facilities and other things. Representative Shipley also made the point that everybody in the facility could get a vaccine, and so why should we worry about if the vaccine's effective? There could be people in these facilities who, because of health reasons, could not get the vaccine. And so we have to bear that in mind, too. That is a very simplistic response, I believe, Representative Shipley, to a very complex situation. So this has been a very difficult situation for lots of folks. This bill does not go far enough for some, and it goes too far for others. I have done my best to strike a balance on these issues. I have done my best to listen to those who fear for their freedom legitimately and those in healthcare facilities who are just doing their damnedest to figure this out, to navigate it, to take care of the people they're sworn to take care of. It is just not as simplistic as Representative Shipley would like it to be. It isn't. It isn't. No right is absolute. Those folks in those nursing homes also have a right to life for as long as possible. And if their life can be jeopardized because we can't ask somebody if they have a vaccine or not when they come into a healthcare facility, can't go there. Can't go there. So this just isn't as simplistic as some folks would like it to be. It isn't. I absolutely believe that vaccine passports are unacceptable, unconstitutional, and un-American. And I also believe, and I don't agree with a lot of things of the Biden administration, but the Biden administration has come out and said they don't favor or support vaccine passports, in fairness to them. That's been said several times. I don't think Americans will tolerate vaccine passports. We're not Europe. We're not going to tolerate vaccine passports. We're not going to tolerate people not being able to travel without a shot not going to happen in America. And if it does start happening in a healthcare facility where they're mandating you have to have a vaccine for care, which they cannot do, or if they mandate you have to have a vaccine before you come in and see your loved ones, we need to come back in here and take action. I don't think that's the intention here. I think the intention is to try to establish protocols to protect the folks that in these medical facilities that we're trying to protect. So there have been accusations that we want to codify discrimination. That's absurd. This doesn't codify discrimination in any way, shape, form, or fashion. It simply leaves the current situation going forward as it pertains to healthcare facilities because of the uniqueness of that situation. It just isn't black and white. We have to recognize reality of what healthcare facilities and long-term health facilities and nursing homes are dealing with and how they're trying to get through this situation. So all other requirements in regard to liberty and privacy in state and federal law remain applicable to healthcare facilities. I will say again, this bill in no way condones or encourages medical facilities to have ID or vaccine passport requirements, but it does recognize reality, CDC requirements. Nobody's saying we have to blindly follow the CDC, but we are trying to use common sense here as these nursing homes and healthcare facilities struggle with what to do. It allows flexibility given the dynamics of the situation and the importance of medical facilities being able to care for and protect their patients and staff. Given the incredible work done by our heroes in nurses' uniforms and doctors' uniforms, it is a little bit insulting to hear some of the terms and references we hear in this debate. And that's not what this is about. Fundamentally, this is a liberty issue. Nobody should be forced to put a chemical in their body, particularly a chemical that is a test that is in testing, hasn't gone through the normal complete protocols, but was done in good faith to try to protect people. There are people who believe the vaccines don't work, people who believe they do, people who believe they're dangerous, people who believe they're safe. That is not the issue here. The issue is, with all of this going on, I think we can almost all fundamentally agree it should be the choice of the individual whether they get this vaccination or not, based upon their health care situation, based upon their own realities of age, health, and whatever factors they would like to consider. That is what this is about, the right of the individual to choose. Not anti-vaccine, not pro-vaccine, the right of the individual to choose in this situation, in a very difficult situation. People need to choose for themselves. They need to decide for themselves. That's what this is about. This bill says the state of Iowa will not issue any kind of identification saying whether someone's had the vaccination or not, the COVID-19 vaccination, so that could be used in a way to restrict an individual from leading their normal lives, from being able to go in a grocery store or go to a baseball game or go to a movie theater. We're not going to tolerate that. We're not going to allow it. It says that businesses don't do it, because if you do, you won't be eligible for grants or contracts going forward. It doesn't touch the employees. This is an issue that we struggle with because there's two rights involved here. There's the right of the individual employee, but there's also the right of the business owner. It's not as easy. It's just not that black and white, Representative Shipley. I've got an 80-year-old lady that owns a dress shop in Denison. Been there for years and years. It may be closed now, but it was there for a long time. Maybe I'm not exactly right with her age, but she's older. She had the dress shop for a long, long time. Should she have the right, in order to protect her health, to say, if you work for me, you have to have the COVID vaccine? Does she? It's her business. It's her business. You may not like that, but the employee has okay, I don't want the vaccine, I'm going to go work somewhere else. Does an employer have a right to decide what, in their business, how they're going to handle this for their employees? That's the conflict. I am very uncomfortable with big corporations saying you have to have the vaccine or you don't work here, and the implications of that for workers. But we talk about intrusive government all the time. Republicans get very upset when we talk about forcing florists or cakes cake makers to be forced to participate in gay weddings. But suddenly we're okay with saying, but because I like this, you don't get, no, that for me, that doesn't pass my principal test. I believe that business owners have a right to decide what happens with their own business. And that's difficult for me. And I hope that it doesn't happen. And I frankly think the free market will take care of it. I've already talked to some facilities. I just don't think, as difficult as it is to hire nurses and as difficult as it is to hire CNAs, I got a feeling that there aren't going to be a lot of facilities that are going to mandate that vaccine and cut out how many in the workforce. I just think the free market will take care of that. I think the same thing will be true of businesses. If businesses say you have to have a vaccine to work here, I've got a restaurant in my district that can't even open their normal hours because they can't find people to work. So how many businesses are going to be willing to cut out how many people in the workforce? That's kind of the beauty of the free market system. Sometimes it takes care of this stuff for itself. If things get out of control, we can always come back. This bill doesn't solve every problem. This bill doesn't answer every issue. And I know it does not go far enough for a number of folks, but it makes a strong statement that we believe that this decision should be up to the individual, and the state of Iowa will not condone identification cards that say whether you've taken the vaccine or not. We will not condone businesses not allowing people to come into their grocery stores or whatever because they haven't had a vaccine. We are not going to condone those things, and that sends a strong message across the board about vaccine passports. This is a major step forward, and I think it could be a bipartisan moment because I got a feeling lots of folks think it should be a personal decision regardless of whether you got a D or an R behind your name. So, I understand there's people upset on all sides. I did my best to strike a place where I thought principle met with common sense. And that's the point for me. Principle has to meet with common sense when we're talking about healthcare facilities. Again, I think this has to be a deeply personal decision. That is the point of this bill. Mr. Speaker, I move the bill and ask it to be read for the last time and placed on its passage.